Welcome to In the Now with Jim Swilley. Earlier today, I was thinking about what I wanted to call these episodes, and I'm calling this one Family Values. And I've Googled 2 or 3 different things about what family values are. There were some good articles. There's one, some Zen guy, and there's one by AARP. They were talking about what are the fundamentals of family values. And one thing that I noticed that came up in all of them is the word tradition. That families need. There's something very empowering about having a tradition that you all, find comfort in or whatever. Now, our life has been very different, as we've discussed. We've had the whole blended family thing. You've had stepfathers that I've had to interact with, and you guys. I know you all love my partner, but you have to make space in your life for me with somebody else, whatever. So, and you've all done that amazingly well. We've been able to travel some, we've been able to do some cool things, and we have some similar interests. Unfortunately, you missed this because you were out of the country, but 2-3 years ago, we all went to the Paul McCartney concert together. And that was a great intergenerational thing because you guys love the Beatles as much as I do, and we have that together. But there's one tradition that we have had since, as far back as you guys can remember, and that's not every occasion, but if it's somebody's birthday or whatever, we always go around the table and edify each other with our words. You know where I'm going with this. Because a few years ago, when I had more money than, I'm not going to say that. I still have plenty of money. That's my vibration I'm sitting now. But I had a little more cash flow at the time. I took all of you guys to New York. And you guys love New York as much as I do. So we were having a great time, and I said, let's all go around the table and say to each other what we love about each other. Jared said, I hate this game. I said, it's not a game. And now, as you have matured, you realize the value of it. And
I love it. I think it only stemmed from an ex-girlfriend of mine. The first day she met the whole family.
You had one of those?
Yeah. It was Christina's birthday, and luckily she was very...
We don't have to say something about Christina?
She was very graceful. And she was like, well, I don't know you. And I mean, a lesser girl would have just probably ran away.
But you know what? My version of that story, when I met Ken, it was 2 days before my birthday. So we were together that first night. I wouldn't really call it a date. He came over, we met each other. And the next night wasn't my birthday, but we were doing a birthday party at the Covington house. And everybody was there. Even your mom's boyfriend cooked for us. And I had already asked a guy that I had been out with, I'd asked him to come to it, but I didn't feel like I had any future with this guy. So when I met Ken, I said, I know this might be kind of awkward for you since we just met, but I'm having a birthday tomorrow night at my ex-wife's house, and I would love for you to come with me. Well, it was actually his dad's birthday that night, so he postponed that and he came, and we didn't even know each other yet. This is the second time we'd ever been together. And you guys, it was my turn to be the recipient, and you guys all went around the table, and you were saying what you loved about me. In my peripheral vision, I could see the tears just coming down his face. And when we got in the car to leave, he said, I've never in my life experienced anything like that. And now he tells me, he said, I don't know how long it took you to fall in love with me, but I was in love with you that night. He said, the man I thought you probably were, just going with my instinct. But he said, when I heard your kids say those things to you, he said, I fell in love with you. He said, for that to be the consensus. And you know what I really loved? It was Sophia's birthday the other day. She just turned 7. Your oldest daughter, my oldest granddaughter. And smart little girl. And she's, reading on a 5th grade level already and hasn't even gone to 2nd grade yet. And so she's old enough. Olivia wouldn't be, but Sophia's old enough to hear this. And I said, Sophia, come in here. There's a tradition we have in our family where we all, when it's your birthday, we all tell you what we think about you, love about you. And everybody did it. You know, we all went around the room and affirmed her like that. And I'm looking at her little face. Look at it. I'm a little emotional thinking about it, but I'm just looking at her, absorbing that, you know. Took it very seriously, you know, made eye contact with her. All these adults in the room affirming her. It's easy to do because she's such a special little girl. But I thought, man, I'm so glad we're starting this tradition into this generation because I don't think it's superficial. And, you know, I was with my parents last night, you know, your Indian granddaddy, and you know, Dad's 81, Mom's 76, and they're in good health for their age. But I also know that every time I go to their house, I think about it. You know, take advantage of this time because it will not be too long where you'll be backing out of this driveway and it'll be a different scenario. And you know, who would have thought that my coming out would have been not the only reason, but a huge part of my healing with my own dad. I mean, I would have never thought of that. And so I really try to think about what I say to them. We don't leave now without, we always say I love you. And I'm so glad that you guys are comfortable with that too. And, you know, like sometimes you'll be out on the road and I'll text you, and, you know, I don't want to be too, you know, I love you, you know. So sometimes I wait and take my cues from you, and I'll get that text back. I love you, Dad. And I'm just like, yes. No, I know that, but I'm just saying, you'd be amazed the families that don't have that tradition. Yeah. And they are so shut up and cut off from one another, full of pride, that they can't get past their little nonsense. And I'm not going to make you do it right now. I just want to refer to the fact that we do have that tradition.
I think it's a great, you know, I did say that in New York at that time.
And we have quoted you for years.
So that's
every birthday now.
That's a tradition.
The main thing The main thing I've taken from the game or tradition, whatever you want to call it, is that it's like that's just like the first step in like letting all of us be able to like communicate how we feel about each other. You know what I mean? So it's like that's in that moment. Yeah, it may be cheesy to some people, but like it really opens up communication with us and be able to be like, hey, I really love you. Like, here's the things that I.
Yeah, you know what's cheesy is families getting together and like not really talking and being like, hey.
Right. Yeah. I can tell you from my viewpoint, looking at the four of you, when I hear you say those things to each other, it's so, I can't tell you what it does for my soul. I love to hear you talk about me, but I get a lot of attention. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, I live in a world where I'm affirmed a lot.
I never really thought about it like that. I've always just thought it was like a nice thing to do. But it's probably the reason that we're all really close. And I feel so like, we know how we feel about each other.
Well, I have a few friends that know about that we do that, and they started doing that with their family, and it like, they told me that it was just like, everyone's just like shambles, just crying, because they never verbalize anything about each other. And that's a sad thing if you don't communicate.
And there are things that you think about somebody, but you think, well, they probably know that. And, you know, in my generation, it was like, well, don't tell people that. They'll get the big head or whatever. And it's just the opposite. Mm-hmm. When you realize that you're valued by the most important people in your life, it's actually very humbling. It doesn't make you conceited or egocentric. It makes you feel very centered and at peace with yourself. And you know, I apologize for continuing to refer to this, but I do have to bring it up because people have asked me in so many interviews, well, how did your kids feel about you coming out? And I said, you know, once I knew my kids were okay with me, once that was settled, nothing else mattered to me. I mean, I was bulletproof after that. And I don't know what that would be like for parents that don't have that from their kids. And I hope I always gave it to you. I always thought you were cool. That's why when the reality show interviewer asked me the other day, tell me something about each one of your kids, I don't even have to stop and think about it. I can automatically tell you, this one does this one great, this one's great about this one, this is what's funny about this one. But I mean, you're not in my mind, you're not just blended as the kids. I have a relationship with each of you. I talk to each of you, you know, at least a week doesn't go by that we're not in some kind of contact with each other. And that, I don't know how people live without that. I mean, that to me, you know, if I have a healthy self-esteem, the hugest part of it comes from that, because I know if your kids are okay with it, because I'm telling you, I've had some success in my life, I've had some money, I've traveled around the world, I've been famous, whatever, but if you have all that and your kids hate you, you really haven't accomplished much. And I know a lot of people in the ministry that have had crazy big churches, and they're the biggest names you can imagine. But you talk to their kids, and their kids are like, you know, they have a completely different story.
And it's the same thing with siblings. Like, there's a lot of people, and we've all had different issues with each other at different times. We always got past it. Because there's people out there that hate their siblings, they've hated them for years, and they fight and fight and fight. And it just breaks my heart to even think about that, even having that strife with us. Obviously, I mean, Jonah and I spouse are like, oh, this and that. But we get that's just like some brotherly stuff.
This and that, wow.
Yeah, this and that. Sounds rough. But some brotherly stuff. But at the end of the day, like, we all like love each other dearly, and that's right. You really have your siblings. Like, you have your family, but even in the core of that, you have your people.
That was the main reason I moved back to Atlanta. I tried to do LA, and I was like, wait, I can't be this far away from my family. Even though I travel all the time, Atlanta's still always my base. I'll be gone for 4 or 5 months. Right now, I'll come back to Atlanta.
Right.
Yeah,
The mental, just being out there, like mentally, I couldn't be that far.
You don't realize how much you depend on that center. I know if I go for too many days and don't hear from you, I start feeling bad inside. Like I need to hear from you. I need to be in the same space with you. And you know, we can't always get everybody together, but there is something when the 4 of you are together. It just completes something inside me. It's like I don't have it until we're all together. And you know, we can't capture this on on video, but there have been times. I mean, you guys are hysterically funny, and you know that kind of like doubling over, laughing to your belly hurts. That's nothing's better than that. And I just can't imagine that people don't have that. And what I guess the message I want to say now is, divorce doesn't have to end that. If you're gay and you come out, that doesn't mean you're not going to be a good parent. That doesn't change that. And just because your kids, I mean, you all are successful, and you guys are successful in the same field, but you're not competitive with one another. And I love when I go to one of your concerts and the others of you are there supporting and taking pictures. That to me is a very strong. I don't think we all realize how much strength we derive from that. And even though we might not look like the conventional family, these family values that we have are real and they're strong. And I would put our family up against anybody, the most religious, the holiest, the most successful.
We're more conventional in any sense as far as what a family should be. Like whatever it looks like, if it's not like with the cleavers or whatever like that, there's nothing wrong with that. As long as you have the base values, that's what matters.
Right.
You can have the facade of a great-looking family, but you know there could be some terrible skeletons in the closet, and it's not functioning right. Ours functions right, and there's love there. And that's what.
What? Say it. Jump in.
I just can't like Jonah looked at me. I'm like, it's beautiful. It is.
It's what? Wait, let's guess. First word sounds like.
I'm not even talking anymore.
Oh, tell us. Share.
And one thing we're talking
Let
about.
her go.
I won't say it. It's based on love.
Oh.
Sissy knows about it.
There's also we're talking about traditions. There's nothing
All that matter about it.
There's no place to interject this, but when you're talking about family traditions, Granddad told me about this one they had where it was like a window. Yeah, they had a windowsill or some sort of block of wood that was by the kitchen table, and anytime they made the whole family laugh, like
They would
Great Granddad make a notch.
Oh, that's cute.
Do you know, years ago, that little house isn't standing now. But years ago, I was a teenager, and we drove down to Valdosta, and when Dad says he was born behind the swamp in the sticks. He's not exaggerating. Ken and I were down there a few months ago, and it's still, in 2014, it's still rural on a dirt roads. I can't imagine what it's like in 1933. But we went in there, and I didn't know about that tradition. My dad walked up, and I saw him, I saw the tears coming out. I said, "What is that?" And and we actually...
Does he still have that?
Well, we pulled it off, and we took it home with us, and years later, like termites had gotten to it. But if I had known, like at the time, if I had known, I would have had that preserved, because that's such what a great idea that every time... And I was glad to hear it, because my remembrance of my granddaddy Swilley, he wasn't... The man that I knew was kind of stern. I don't remember him laughing a lot. So the idea that when he was a young man, anytime, like, laughter was so respected in that household that if somebody made everybody laugh, they did a notch. That is a beautiful tradition.
I remember Granddaddy taking me out on the boat when they lived in Columbus, the fishing boat, and I would ask him about growing up on the farm and everything. And I think even it was the South Georgia preacher, the whole thing. And I remember him telling me about like just this extreme racism that was all around him, and that from his earliest memories, deciding that that's not okay. And the one thing that Granddaddy told me, and that just really stuck with me, and this is the most important thing for me, like parenting, the only thing if I would tell my kids anything, is that we really are all the same, and you treat people the same, and you're not better or worse than anyone else. And that's something that was like built into him. Nobody taught him that. He grew up in a world that was extremely divided. And I think that because that's in him, and it's in you, and it's in all of us, I think that's why we're able to like have relationships with each other, because we're not angry, we don't hate the world, we don't hate people, we understand that like we just...
That's what makes me proudest of the family. Well, I mean, not proudest, but one of the big things is just being from the South, and especially being in the ministry at a time of just ultimate upheaval and just civil insanity down here, that our family chose the right side.
We were on the right side.
You know what I found out? I hate that time's going so fast, but I didn't know this till recently, because I knew on Mom's side of the family, especially with Uncle Earl, Bishop Paul, there was, a lot with the civil rights movement, and he did a lot with racial reconciliation. So I always knew that. I didn't know this about Granddaddy Swilley until recently, that this was in South Georgia, like in the late 40s, and he had African Americans that came to the church. Now, they sat in a different section because that was the Jim Crow law at the time. But I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I mean, that was unusual for a Pentecostal church in the South in the 40s, in the early 50s, to have African Americans come. And he said, Granddaddy would always invite them, come sit in with the rest of us, and they were like, no, because it can endanger their lives. But I was so glad, because I wasn't really that close to him, and I was really glad to find that out. And one thing about lineage and legacy and DNA and all that kind of stuff, some of the things that you think are unique to you, when you go back and look at your ancestry, you realize, oh, this is where I came from. Exactly. I can't take full credit for this. I may stand on the shoulders of the previous generation and take it to the next level, which I hope you all do. I hope you all exceed my success and all of that. That's what you should do. Every generation should evolve. But that is where we came from. And for whatever. My family's not been perfect, and we've had family members that have had scandals and all that kind of stuff, but we're still the real deal. And I'm proud of our family, and I wouldn't change anything about any of us. And I'm so glad that I don't have to convince you all of that, that you're all proud of each other. What do you say?
Oh, I was going to say, you can see our family values in that the next generation, my daughters, which I'm the first one to have kids, so this is like the beginning of the next generation, they are like so loving and so kind. Sophia, I see like 7-year-olds, 6-year-olds bullying each other on the playground, already being mean, already pointing out what's different about the other people, making people feel bad. And Sophia is so like kind and diplomatic and open and just like a good person. She was 6 or 5 or 6, and there was a woman that tripped on the sidewalk. I didn't say anything to her. I was like, oh. Sophia runs over, picks up her purse, puts everything back, hands it to her, like make sure she's okay.
They're such good little girls, and you're a great mom. I want to say this because we're about out of time, but this made me so happy about the next generation. But a few months ago, Ken and I had taken them to church out in Covington. And then that's when we were still doing the Midtown Church brunch. So I brought them back, and you were going to meet me in the parking lot and pick them up, but you were running late, so I had to take them in. So I got Sophia I found her some a paper and crayons. So she's over there in the corner with her back to me, and she's coloring. She's, self-contained. Olivia had passed out, so I put her out on the sofa and she was asleep. So Sophia, I don't even think she's listening to anything I'm saying. And earlier that week, we had taken a group of people to see the movie about Nelson Mandela, and so I was talking about. It must have been around Black History Month when this happened, because I was talking about Mandela and Black History Month and why that's important, and I was talking about different icons of that movement. Well, she gets up from across the room with her back to me, and she comes over to me and she's doing like that on my pants. Like, well, I thought she was telling me she had to go to the bathroom or something. So I said, "What is it, baby? What do you need?" She said, "You forgot to mention Harriet Tubman." And I thought, what? My white first grade 6 at the time year old granddaughter is so engaged that she's multitasking, she's coloring, but she's listening to what I'm saying, and she's helping me with my sermon, and she knows who the heck Harriet Tubman is.
Yeah.
I mean, how many little 6-year-olds, much less little white 6-year-olds, would even have made that connection? And so when I heard that, I thought, oh, this next generation.
She always talks about people, like her heroes, like Martin Luther King, like whoever it is, like different people that she's kind of picked up on or learned about in school that she like she likes Jimmy Carter. And this isn't coming from me. This is just things that she's heard from her teacher or on a documentary or wherever. And she says to me, she said this several times, where she's like, Mommy, these like important people all have something to say. I'm trying to figure out what my thing is to say.
What?
She says that all the time. She's like, she's like, I want to know what I'm saying to the world.
Woo!
That's like she said it several times.
My
That's
God.
awesome.
This is such a good show. I hate that we're out of time, but we are. Will you guys come back and do this again?
Yeah, it's
I
fun.
love talking to you.
Yeah.
I think you all know this, but I love every one of you. I'm proud of every one of you. And I'm honored that you would take time out of your busy schedules to help me with this project. You're the best people in the world. Thank you so much for being here with us in the Now Jim Swilley. See you next time.